Evening, everybody. Hope you're having a good weekend. I am. As you can see, I'm still trying out this whole entire little doodle before I review stuff. And look, I'm actually able to post a video earlier than I usually do. I'm trying to do them much faster. Anyway, MasterChudi made a great review the other day about Super Sons, and that totally psyched me up. I am so excited that I decided I have to do another review, and immediately. So I decided to review my favorite series of all time, Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. Specifically, it is the only Marvel comic that I do read. Sadly, though, the creators of it, Jerry Conway and Ryan Stegman, have been taken off the book, but come Legacy, the series is going to be completely shifted and it's going to go 8 years into the future. I am unsure about this, and there's a lot of suspicions that maybe this wasn't by their own will that they were removed. It's a lot of issues, but let's just dig right into it and just have a good time. So for starting off, it starts off with this little adventure of them chasing after the Rhino, and the Rhino leads them into a trap that pretty much was to knock out Spider-Man and Spinneret. Oh, by the way, Spinneret continues to wear the Venom symbiote suit. It was to knock them out or make them incapacitated and then capture Annie, Spider-Lang, for some nefarious deed which we learn later on. In the meantime, we get to see it's Liz Allen again with, of course, Miss January. There's an interesting thing here about that. It finally confirms something that I was questioning for the beginning, that Liz Allen is actually an alcoholic. Throughout this whole entire scene, it actually shows that Miss January has betrayed Liz Allen. She is joining up with Normie completely, as Liz Allen warns that she is going to, after she finds out that Normie's obsession with the Green Goblin and Spider-Man has gone too far and that he's about to ruin his life, she tries and stops him. And Miss January has decided enough is enough, and she calls the punches and gets rid of her. And all this scenery throughout it that you can see in the foreground right here, it just heavily shows how much he has been really into the booze. For what I'm sorry, I'm not very good at wording right now. So pretty much it just, all the displays from all the series that we've seen, she's always with wine and so forth, and she's kind of avoiding her son and so forth. She doesn't want to get back into this. She's terrified, and she's lost her husband, and she's kind of distanced herself from her son, as Miss January points out, that she doesn't really care enough about her son and just walks away. So this brings up a lot of questions about Miss January that I really like. She is a mysterious character, and she's kind of fun and interesting to see. She is heavily devoted to Normie, but we don't know anything about her except for she has a heavy devotion to Oscorp. Her name kind of makes me wonder if she's a clone. As we've known in the past, the clones tend to either have a name based around the Parker family or, well, in MC2, Mayday did have a clone, and her name was April. And I don't know, it just kind of makes me think, is January a clone of Peter? Or maybe Annie? I don't know, this could be the Clone Saga kid for all we know. Anyway, we get back with the Parker family as they're trying to find their daughter. And we learn something interesting. As MJ puts it, that she's doing as much as she can to keep the symbiote in control. This brings us to a conclusion that MJ can't get rid of the symbiote. The doctor's appointment that she went to probably was maybe to go see the Fantastic Four, since they were referenced in the last issue. She can't get rid of the symbiote suit. It's attached to her. She can't remove it, and so she's trying her best to control it. But who knows how long that's going to be. So Peter and MJ decide they're going to go and find the Rhino. How do they do it? Well, actually, Peter's going to go after the Rhino, and he's an idiot, as he says, and he'll easily go find him. Meanwhile, MJ decides to go and visit Liz Allen, the woman that gave her the suit. In the meantime, though, we get to see where Annie went to, and obviously, she went to Normie Osborn, who I think has a crush on her, and they pretty much go into a spitting contest and bickering about who's the real idiot into this. That she thinks that he's a brat or just a child that's pretending to be an adult. Meanwhile, he thinks that she's a naive fool for believing that her father will always win, and that he was really the good person that she believes he is. And And you know what? It's really kind of interesting because she gets to a part in there where she kind of sympathizes with him. And she says that it's just terrible what happened to your life as he starts ranting about it. But then we get into one of my favorite parts into this, where we get to see Spider-Man and he's just really ticked off. And he demands to see where the Rhino is. It's Vinny's place, which was shown in, I think, issue 6. But anyway, no, issue 5, I believe. And so he's like, where the heck is the Rhino? And he beats up everybody, just bloody everywhere. And this one guy's just like, it's right there, or whatever. And that really made me laugh. That was just a little snicker from me, because the guy is so freakishly calm. He's still drinking. He's just like, whatever, it's a typical Tuesday. And I don't know. That's just really cute. I think that was good on them. Meanwhile, but they get really serious. The parents get really serious, and it pumps you up. They're just getting bloody and violent into it as they're just beating the heck out of people. Like, dang, this is Peter just beating into the Rhino, and then there's MJ just like torturing Liz. And no, I don't think this is not canonical, because if we noticed in the original series, the one by Dan Slott, Peter went to great lengths to protect his daughter, and especially in the after chapters, even after Venom died, he beat Dr. Octopus he ripped off his freaking limbs just to keep his family safe. And so to the extent that if it comes to Annie, he is willing to not pull punches. And it really shows because, he kind of the Rhino pretty much told him, like, don't worry, everything is fine and everything. It's like, who hired me to capture her totally wanted you to find him, so I'm totally gonna willingly tell you. And then he beats the ever-loving tar out of them. It's weird, but, I know what? He's a father. It's very canonical. But anyway, so we get to an interesting part that really is really deep. That Annie does tell Normie that she thinks he can all change, and then explains to him that you're kind of being a child, that you get to decide right now, are you either a coward or just a lonely boy? Because, I can't talk. He asked him, are you a child or lonely boy? Specifically because he was a coward to capture her to entice Spider-Man. Or is he just a lonely boy that just kind of wants attention and really just wants an emotional outlet because he's so alone? His mother's an alcoholic that has no time for him, and his father's dead. And it really is really sad because, he does have a point to hate Spider-Man now. You kind of get it. It's awful. Harry Osborn was killed by Spider-Man, and afterwards, his mother, Liz Allen, fell into an alcoholic state. He was all alone. The only person he had was Miss January to take care of him, and so he devoted his life to revenge. Which brings up a really other good point, is she really such a good person? Could she be perhaps manipulating him from the shadows to become the next Goblin? Is this all part of her master plan, or am I just crazy? But anyway, so Annie does tell him he has a chance. He can stay here in the room and release her, and they can be friends. They can go back, and he can be absolutely happy. Or he can leave the room and start his, evil Goblin master plan and just continuously be miserable. And he leaves. And then we learn that even though she said he had a chance to return and make his life happy, there was no turning back. As we find out, he's murdered everyone at Oscorp. And it's just a bloody massacre. So there's no going back for him. There's nothing left. Just his last ditch effort to defeat Spider-Man. And it's a big one. I actually find it kind of interesting that he made a giant robot. Not to my taste, but it's pretty good. And then we'll have the last conclusion, the final episode that will be made by the original Spider-Man Renew Your Vows team. It looks really nice, and there's been some preview pictures of it where we're getting the X-Men. The X-Men are coming back in that issue, so that really does hype me up. It really psychs me up, and I am really pumped for this, but I'm also really sad because it is the last issue these guys are going to be here. I don't know. I don't know what the future will bring or if I'll like it. As for the whole entire issue itself, it was pretty good. The writing is as good as it can get for compacting two, like a whole entire story into just 2 issues, but there's a lot of problems. You know, there's a lot of side plots that I would like to get wrapped up that aren't. The artwork, I mean, the artist, this time, he's okay. There were issues with it that sometimes the head of Normie and his face would just completely alter, and I think he just needs to work on drawing kids a lot. And sometimes I think that people's mouths were a little bit too overly drawn. Other than that, it was pretty good. Oh, and here's another thing. Last time I talked about that DC comics tend to have a lot of, have different types of advertisements. I just checked this book out. All the advertisements are of nothing but Marvel stuff. Just everything Marvel. Meanwhile, DC kind of was appealing with all other things. Like they had the razor blades, which is specifically for adults, so they know their viewers are more than just kids. And then they had, like, what else was there? I think there was a trip thing and stuff. And yeah, they had their comics in there, but they had other stuff. And I think and it just really shows what's going on and that they're taking a little bit of a better turn than Marvel is. So anyway, this was my review. I hope you guys enjoyed, and get ready for another one that's coming out soon. Bye!